Every now and again, I get a little bit of strange inspiration, and I'm sick of just building a rustic house every now and again. When you come across something truly special, let's say a mooshroom island, you think, well, I can't just waste my rustic house skills on this island. I'm going to build something different, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Why not become one with the mooshroom? So, much like our cow friends, we're going to be living in a giant mushroom house. Let's get into it. So obviously the first thing is locating one of these biomes, whether it's a mushroom island or attached to the mainland. You can get seeds for single player, but those of you on multiplayer will probably have to search for a long time. But if you come across one, maybe you would consider making one of these houses. Now, if you've watched my witch tower, you will know this technique. We are making a single block frame for our stalk of the mushroom. It's very stumpy, but it's got a little bit of curve and not too much in it. Then we go ahead and make the circular base. Everything needs to be in scale, so depending on how big you want your mushroom, you need to adjust accordingly. Mine is going to try and fit in with the size of the island and the rest of the mushrooms around it. Once you've got to about this height, everything that's going to be on the inside is kind of taken care of. So all you have to do now is work around the base framework and just thicken it up to the stalk width that you're going for. However, you do want to have some variation. Much like the witch tower, it sort of gets thinner as it goes towards the top. But do make sure that you don't make it too thin, but you can always go back and edit it if it doesn't look right. One big thing that we're going to be doing throughout this build is taking a step back, looking at the overall shape, and editing it to match. So now we're going to work on the actual cap of the mushroom. You need to start off by making a fairly normal circle around the top of your stalk. We're then going to shape this cap around our stalk to match. There is a specific technique to this, however it is done a lot by eye and what looks good. So I've risen the stalk above our base circle, and then I've gone ahead and thickened up that base layer. And once we've done that, we can then start to work on every successive layer. Now you need to have a progression to get the shape. If every layer is the same, we're going to end up with a cone. We need to make every successive layer slightly thicker than the last, so that we have a general, gradual capped shape. So as you can see, my third layer is a little bit thicker than the other, and then fill in the space on the fourth. But this isn't the final shape that we're going to have. Like I said earlier, you need to take a step back and you can see that the shape isn't right. It's so flat, it's so unnatural, it doesn't look quite right. And it's going to take a long time before we're actually able to make this look like a proper mushroom. And I know it's going to suck for anybody in survival, because if you want to take a look and take a step back, you're going to have to get down from your scaffolding and then get back on and edit what you've done. After review, I decided that mine looked like a coin balancing on top of my stalk, so I needed to make it thicker and wider at the bottom to try and get that shape. But once I'd done that, it looks so thin. I had to thicken it up from the inside. So again, that's probably going to suck for anyone in survival. You're going to need a lot of dirt scaffolding to do this. But now that we've made some alterations, let's take another step back and review what we've done. It has improved ever so slightly, but you can tell it still looks like it's just sitting on the top and it hasn't got enough shape. So we need to decide what to do, and one thing that you can do on this mushroom cap is add another layer but thinner than your furthest point on the mushroom, and this has actually helped the shape quite a lot, but it still looks very rigid, and it's incredibly hard for me to direct you, because this is the type of build that you have to do through the creative eye. I can't give you a block for block on making a mushroom cap, because that's just ridiculous. You need to make one that looks good to you, and my answer to this was not having that really rigid shape. You can see that I'm just adding some random blocks and kind of going over this process of stepping back, taking a look, and just editing it ever so slightly so it looks a little more natural. Just the odd block here or there really removes that consistent circular progression that I had at the start. Now that's great for the base layer, but once you start wanting a bigger, better shape, you're going to have to edit it quite a lot. So I've added a few white spots, as you can tell. That just adds a bit of consistency to the build, and then I've gone ahead and added some staircases to try and make that stalk smoother. Sometimes, if you find that the shape of something isn't going well, just take a step back and work on something else for a little while, and then come back to it, and then sometimes it just brings some perspective. I've actually added another layer underneath my cap, but only on one side to make it look like the cap is tilting. Now to decorate the stalk. This is where the house actually is. So some very simple decorations has a very big effect. Adding some very simple windows with the decoration of the trapdoor and the fence gate do marvellously in this build. A few flowers out the front and a door, and that's pretty much it for the exterior. You don't need to add much more. You can go back and constantly edit the shape of the cap to try and make it look a little more natural, but I don't think you'll ever get the perfect one, because I don't think it exists. You just have to constantly make it so you're happy with the design. I feel kind of happy with what I've produced here, but it could definitely be better, and I invite anyone that's found a mooshroom island, or whatever they're called. Are they called mooshroom islands? I invite anyone to make one and tweet me their picture, because I absolutely love it when people watch my tutorials and produce something not exactly the same, but they've made it on their own. But we now have the interior to do, and this is actually way simpler than you think. I'm actually going to go in Quake Pro because it's very small in there. This is going to be a compact house, and it's a bit of a mess. So you can actually just remove the floor, all the mycelium and spare dirt that was around, and simply replace it with quartz for the time being. We just need to tidy it up in here first, and then we can go on to do some more of the detailing. I haven't actually got much room in here, but it looks like it because I'm using Quake Pro, so I'm just cleaning up the ceiling, and then I'm going to add some quick lighting. And because I don't have much room here, I'm going to add a second layer, just so we basically double the amount of floor space. So we're able to have all of our amenities downstairs, while we have things like beds and all of the aesthetics upstairs. I thought about using quartz slab for this, but honestly I think a little bit of contrast with the wood will do the interior really well, and you won't be able to see this spruce from the outside. So it actually just adds a little more contrast. Making sure that you maximize space, you need to make sure that your slab is on the correct half of the block so that it's not floating. So we'll just add things like a bed, a desk, and a couple of paintings, and take care of the aesthetic side of things, because you don't really want to be going up your ladder in your house every time you want to access a chest. We'll leave all of the functionality side of things downstairs once we've just simply decorated up here. It doesn't need to be anything too fancy. I'll leave all of that stuff up to you. So downstairs, like I said, is where all the functional stuff happens. So we're going to want to put a crafting bench, some chests, a furnace, and all of that kind of stuff. Now, if you wanted to have an enchanting room and that sort of thing, I would recommend making a basement. You could even have it as a mushroom motif. Now, this is just an example. I would kind of expect something a little better than this. I included an interior very quickly for this build because I think it's only fair to. In such a small space, it doesn't take long to show what's going on. Some simple paintings, a couple of decoration tools, nothing too fancy, and you've got a perfectly functioning interior. And like I said, if you want some more space, you're gonna have to go underground. And that's kind of it for the build. A very simple interior for a very simple but effective concept, and I think it just looks so grand in the setting that it's in. If you put this anywhere else, it's gonna look super weird. Actually, it would look pretty good in a giant forest, but then you'd have to make the trees. But this just sits there really naturally, and it looks like it's meant to be there, and that's what's important, integrating a build into the surroundings. So we're going to take a quick look around like we always do, but I actually have a favour to ask. If you've made it to this point in the video, that means you've watched the entire thing and you want to know my final thoughts. Well, actually, I need to know your thoughts this time. I'm thinking about getting some merchandise made, you know, some t-shirts or whatever, and I wanted to know what you guys would want. Now, it could be anything. Would you like some socks? Would you like a mug? Would you like some headphones? I don't know. Anything that you can think of, shoot an idea at me in the comments so I can have a look and see what people are after in regards to some merchandise. Or if you just wouldn't buy merchandise, I'd like to know that too. I honestly don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to merchandise. All I have is my animated guy and a logo which I'm going to start using a bit more. What do you think? This is my logo. I like it. I like it. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your comments on what you would like as a merchandise thing. Is it a keyring? Is it some socks? What ideas? Anything. It could be anything. A doorknob. I don't really care. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. You know where the comment section is. Goodbye!